I'm struggling to find a beloved bracelet, and I can't shake the feeling that my mother-in-law may have taken it without asking. This isn't the first time she's borrowed my things without permission. My husband, Richard, tries to ease the tension by reminding me that the bracelet was a gift from my mother, suggesting I just let it go. It's frustrating that he always seems to side with her, never defending me, which only makes things harder for me. Then things took a turn for the worse. Someone stole Richard's prized luxury car, and I have a strong suspicion about who's behind it. My name is Julie, and I'm 30 years old. Until recently, my life with Richard was blissful. We had just celebrated our first wedding anniversary when everything changed unexpectedly. Both of us work, but I usually finish my tasks early and start dinner while waiting for Richard to come home. One evening, he arrived with shocking news. His mother would be moving in with us indefinitely after the passing of his father. She felt lonely and wanted to be closer to us as she aged. "Wait, she's moving in with us?" I asked, trying to process this sudden shift. Richard nodded. "Yes, it's been hard for her alone. She needs to feel safe and connected." Feeling overwhelmed, I replied, "But you should have discussed this with me first. We have our own lives. Can't we think this over?" Despite my plea, Richard just smiled and shrugged it off. "It's fine. She just wants to be with us and feel secure. I understand she might be lonely and scared, but you made this big decision without consulting me. Couldn't you have at least talked it over with me? Why should I have to explain everything to you?" "She's my mom," he countered. "But that's just it," I retorted, feeling the weight of the situation. "She's your mom, not mine. I have to change everything because of this. Why aren't you considering how I feel?" "It's already decided. Just deal with it," he said, shutting down any further discussion. I called after him, trying to reopen the conversation, but he ignored me and walked out, leaving me to simmer in my frustration. How could he unilaterally decide that we'd all live together without even consulting me? I still had to adapt, regardless of my feelings. Richard rarely helps around the house and dismisses the disruption because to him, it's no big deal. After all, it's his mother. We've tried to talk about it, but he always shuts me down, insisting the decision is final. As expected, the following week, my mother-in-law arrived at our house, as if it had been her home all along. I might be able to tolerate the arrangement a bit more if my mother-in-law were a kinder person, but every encounter with her feels strained. She often says hurtful things and treats me poorly, which is why I typically avoid visiting her unless absolutely necessary. Now, suddenly, we were expected to live together. True to form, my mother-in-law began criticizing me from day one. "Julie, did you know I was coming today? There's trash in the corner," she scolded. "I'm sorry. I was working and didn't have time to clean," I explained. "Excuses. Couldn't you have tidied up after work? But then I wouldn't have had time to make dinner." "Oh, come on, stop arguing. How do you even manage being Richard's wife? Be more efficient." I stuttered an apology just 13 minutes into her stay, feeling more overwhelmed than ever. My worries about living with her deepened. Her controlling behavior escalated, constantly stressing me out. Then one day, something unusual happened. I returned home from work to find her greeting me with an uncharacteristically warm smile. "Welcome home," she beamed, which was odd for her. As I hung up my coat, a glint of something shiny caught my eye. It was around her neck. "Wait, is that my necklace?" Unease washed over me as I rushed to my bedroom to check my jewelry box. My fears were confirmed. I confronted her in the living room, where she sat nonchalantly. "That necklace, it's mine, isn't it?" I asked, barely containing my frustration. She smirked. "Oh, you finally noticed. It looks good on me, doesn't it?" Her shameless reply stunned me. "What are you talking about? Please stop using my things without asking. It's not okay." "What's the big deal? It's not like it's going to disappear or anything. Stop complaining and get dinner ready. Richard will be home soon." She dismissed me. As I prepared dinner, she continued to meddle, increasing my stress. That evening, I reached my limit and knew I had to talk to Richard about it. "Hey Richard, can we talk?" I asked as he walked through the door. "What's on your mind?" he inquired casually. "Today, I found your mother wearing my necklace. She never asked for my permission." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "Oh, so you're saying she went into my room, opened my jewelry box, and just took it? Isn't that a bit of an exaggeration?" Richard's skepticism was immediate. "How am I exaggerating? This is exactly what happened," I responded, my frustration growing. Come on, I'm sure Mom didn't mean any harm. He tried to downplay the situation. A surge of anger washed over me at his automatic defense of her. Struggling to remain composed, I continued, hoping to make him understand. So, you think it's okay for her to just walk into my room and take my things without asking? A normal person would at least say sorry. Well, Mom probably just saw something she liked and grabbed it, he replied dismissively. But that's not really the issue here, Richard. You need to talk to her about respecting my space. I insisted. What's telling her off going to change? He shot back. But you're her son. She might actually listen to you. You need to handle this, I pressed, hoping he would grasp the gravity of the situation. Okay, fine, I'll talk to her, he finally conceded, though reluctantly. However, by the next morning, it seemed Richard had completely forgotten our conversation. I shot him a few irritated looks over breakfast, but he never brought it up with his mother. Since then, my mother-in-law had started using my belongings freely, treating them as if they were hers to borrow without needing permission. My complaints fell on deaf ears, and with no locks on any of the doors, confronting her felt futile. If this continued, I feared I would start losing my belongings permanently. I realized I needed to devise a strategy to stop her intrusive behavior. Then one day, something happened that I couldn't overlook or forgive. My late mother's bracelet was missing. I had planned to wear it to meet a friend, and it was a treasured piece I held dear. I had kept my late mother's bracelet hidden in a secret compartment on my desk instead of my jewelry box, but now it was gone. The only person who could have taken it was my mother-in-law. When I confronted her firmly about the missing bracelet, she casually admitted to taking it. "Oh, that bracelet. I just borrowed it," she said with a nonchalant tone. "No, give it back right now," I demanded. Urgency and frustration cleared my voice. This wasn't just any item. It was a precious connection to my late mother, and I couldn't stand to see it treated so carelessly. "I need it back immediately," I insisted. "I can't do that," my mother-in-law replied coolly. "Why not?" My heart raced. "Because I sold it," she confessed, her tone utterly casual. "What? You sold it? Are you joking? Who sells someone else's belongings?" I was utterly shaken but tried to keep my composure. "Stop joking around and give it back now," I pressed, hoping she was just teasing. "I'm not kidding. By the way, I've sold most of the things I've borrowed from you too," she added, dropping another bombshell. "What were you thinking?" I exclaimed, incredulous as I faced my mother-in-law. Just then, my husband Richard walked into the room. "Richard, listen to this. Your mom sold my bracelet, the one that belonged to my late mother. Plus, she's been selling off most of my things without asking." "Is this true?" Richard asked his mother, disbelief crossing his face. My mother-in-law stuck out her tongue playfully, seemingly unfazed. "I'm on a fixed income, you know. I didn't want to be a burden. But I can't make ends meet without a little extra cash," she replied, trying to justify her actions. "You've got to be joking. Who gave you the right to do that?" I shot back, my patience wearing thin. "Don't get so upset. I didn't mean any harm," she said, downplaying her actions. "If you meant no harm, you wouldn't be selling other people's things," I retorted, anger bubbling beneath the surface. "That's because," she started to explain, but I cut her off. "Where did you sell it? Get it back right now." Just then, Richard yelled, "Enough is enough." To my surprise, he wasn't glaring at his mother. He was looking at me, confusion and hurt in his eyes. "Why are you yelling at me?" I asked, taken aback. "Your mom took my bracelet without asking." "Be quiet. I did it for Mom," he shot back, frustration lacing his voice. "For Mom? Seriously, why should I give up my precious things for her?" I retorted, my voice rising in frustration. "Because it makes Mom happy. She's your mother-in-law. Show some respect and just do as you're told," Richard replied, siding with his mother. I was utterly dumbfounded and deeply hurt. How could my husband not see the unfairness of the situation? How could he expect me to simply comply and sacrifice my precious belongings for his mother's happiness? This whole ordeal was becoming unbearable. I could no longer endure his mother stealing from me or Richard's unwavering support of her. I was at my breaking point. Fueled by escalating anger, I shouted, "That's it. If you won't take this seriously, maybe we should just get a divorce." My voice trembled with emotion. "Stop joking about divorce," Richard retorted, clearly not taking me seriously. "I'm not joking, Richard. I'm dead serious. I replied, my determination unmistakable. Fine, whatever. I'll get the divorce papers today, he said dismissively. Fine, if that's what you want. I'm okay with it, I shot back, equally resolute. As we argued, I caught a glimpse of a satisfied smirk on his mother's face. It suddenly dawned on me that she had never liked me. Perhaps her true aim was to drive me away and secure the house for herself and her son. That night, Richard returned home with the divorce papers already filled out. After signing them, I began packing my belongings, deciding to wait for the right moment to leave. The next day, during my work break, I noticed multiple missed calls from my sister Megan, who lived nearby. Concerned, I called her back immediately. Megan, is that true? I asked, alarmed by her news. It is, no doubt about it. It's not common around here, but it's true. I took a photo, so I'll send it to you. Make sure to check it on your end, she informed me urgently. Okay, got it, I replied, ending the call. After hanging up, Megan sent the photo, providing undeniable evidence that could potentially expose my mother-in-law's deceitful behavior. That evening, as I was calmly preparing dinner, Richard rushed into the kitchen, his expression fraught with worry. Julie, this is serious. My car, my prized car, is gone. That is serious, I said, trying to remain composed. But why aren't you more worried? His tone became accusatory. You know how much that car means to me. I've been dreaming of it since I was single, and I finally bought it last year. Remember? Exactly. So be more concerned. We're still paying off the loan for it. Where could it have gone? He pressed, panic rising in his voice. Please don't tell me you took it. Suspicion flashed in his eyes. Of course not, Richard. I have my own car, I replied, feeling the frustration swell inside me. Frustration bubbled inside me at the accusation and the chaos enveloping us. I knew Richard would be furious if I had taken his car, but then I glanced at my mother-in-law, who quickly averted her gaze. That small gesture confirmed my suspicions. Richard, I think your mom knows something about this, I said cautiously. Why would my mom know anything about it? Richard replied, confusion etched on his face. I turned to my mother-in-law, noticing her complexion had drained of color. What are you talking about? She asked, feigning innocence. How is my mom involved? Richard pressed, trying to piece together the situation. Well, I got a call from Megan today. She was out shopping and saw your mom driving your car, I explained. That car is pretty unique, a foreign model and blue. It stands out around here. Megan even recognized the license plate. Richard's anger became palpable as he turned to confront his mother. Wait, what's going on here? He demanded. My mother-in-law began to make excuses. No, Richard, I just borrowed the car for a bit. Borrowed? Seriously? I've told you so many times not to touch that car. Richard shot back, frustration mounting. I'm sorry, but I want to drive it, she said sheepishly. What on earth did you do with the car then? Did you leave it somewhere? Richard pressed, seeking clarity on the situation. Not exactly, but I did leave the keys in the ignition. Someone from the neighborhood might have taken it, she admitted, her nervousness evident. Stolen? Seriously? Richard was incredulous. I swear, I drove the car all the way home. I'm not lying, she insisted. To challenge her story, I pulled out a photo to make my point. Is this why you're lying? Did you wreck the car? I asked, showing her the picture of my sister Megan, which depicted my mother-in-law driving a badly damaged luxury car. Megan sent this just in case you took Richard's car and wrecked it so badly that you couldn't drive it back. No, that's not what happened, she stammered, cornered by the evidence. Where's the car now? Richard demanded, his patience wearing thin as we navigated the mystery of the car's disappearance. If someone stole it from the neighborhood, wouldn't someone have noticed? He argued beside me. Richard trembled with rage, his voice rising as he confronted his mother with an intense stare. Are you serious? You wrecked my car, and now what? You just expect me to take it back. Calm down, Richard. His mother tried to soothe him. How can I stay calm? You're paying for the repairs. Richard snapped back. But then she dropped another bombshell. That's impossible. I've already sold the car, she confessed, her voice shaking with nervousness. Sold it? That's not possible. The car is in my name, Richard exclaimed, disbelief flooding his words. I found a dealer who said they'd buy any car. They told me I could even sell it on behalf of someone else, so I sold it for $5,500, she admitted. Richard was aghast. The luxury car he cherished, one that could easily fetch hundreds of thousands, had been sold for a mere fraction of its value. His mother had been duped by a shady dealer who took advantage of her ignorance about the car's true worth. When Richard grasped the full extent of what had happened, his fury erupted. "You've got to be kidding me. Do you realize how much that car meant to me?" "I'm sorry, Richard. I'll give you back the $5,500. Please forgive me," she pleaded, regret lacing her voice. $5,500 isn't even close to enough. "Get out," Richard commanded, his tone stern and unyielding as he forcibly ushered his mother out and locked the door. Turning to me, his demeanor shifted to one of defeat. "I never thought Mom could cause so much trouble. I'm sorry for not supporting you earlier," he admitted. "Finally, you understand. Don't worry, now that she's gone, I'm over it. Let's move forward happily together," I replied, trying to find some solace in this resolution. "No, we won't," I declared firmly. "I want a divorce." Richard's face drained of color, and he clung to me in bewilderment. "Wait a second. I already kicked Mom out. Why divorce now?" "Don't you get it?" His voice was a mix of desperation and confusion, struggling to grasp why getting rid of his mother hadn't mended the deeper fractures in our relationship. "I've reached my breaking point, Richard. This divorce isn't up for discussion anymore. I'm done trying to repair this relationship. Too many times you've sided with your mom over me, and it's simply not fair." "You're being overly harsh," Richard countered, clearly taken aback by my resolve. "That's ironic coming from you," I shot back. "When I needed your support, you did nothing. It felt like you cared more about your mother's comfort than our marriage. My feelings for you have soared just like they have for her." "Julie, please calm down and rethink this," Richard implored, desperation lacing his voice. "This entire situation stems from your choice to prioritize her over us. Remember that. I'll never forgive you for it." "And what happened to the car?" "You brought this upon yourself," I asserted, my anger palpable. "If you believe that's unfair, then I hope you find the mortgage and car payments overwhelming. You've earned every bit of hardship that comes your way." With that, I cut through any further excuses he might have, leaving him to absorb the weight of my words. Grabbing my bags, already packed and ready, I made my way to City Hall to file for a divorce, severing our ties permanently by deleting all his contact information. Later, I confronted my mother-in-law, demanding compensation for selling my belongings without my consent. She reluctantly agreed, now burdened with her financial obligations to Richard. Richard was left to manage the repercussions alone, weighed down by loans and a lifestyle drastically different from before. No more therapeutic drives, just days filled with regret. I moved into an apartment near my job, embracing the tranquility and independence of single life. With my newfound financial freedom, life felt much more serene. Today, on my day off, I might even drive to the beach and bask in the true essence of freedom. I'm fully committed to making the most of this new chapter in my life.